So why is Hex not a scam? Like, even in beyond that, how could it ever be one? Like, is there, you heard the imaginary horrible, like, oh, Richard's going to dump one day, the old beat up unfalsifiable argument, or the greater fool argument that applies to like everything, every asset, and basically anyways. Why is Hex not a scam? And like, is there any logical argument or any circumstantial evidence that ever could be?
Um, so yeah, pretty big payday for the win. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, a lot of people in the beginning had problem with where did the ETH go, right? That was the main contention for a lot of people. And simply put, you know, the ETH was a sale. You were selling your ETH for Hex through a contract. It's it's just a different distribution model than having a funding round and then giving people like we have for Pulse. It's just a different uh, inflation model or distribution model.
You're describing the adoption amplifier.
Correct. Yes, where there was 365. I think it was 365 days where you had every day 500 million hex would go out available for sale, right? You deposited Ethereum and then you would get your portion of the pool at the end of the day. At 8 o'clock, you'd be able to claim your hex out of the pool, okay? Now, cool thing about the way it was structured was if you had a lot of Bitcoin free claimers, it would take the hex out of the adoption amplifier, so there would be less for sale. But there wasn't that many Bitcoin being free claimed, so all of that hex basically stayed for sale. So it went from I think 513 million to like per day being sold to like maybe 498 million per day being sold. So gives you a little bit of perspective. Now after that was done, then it's purely the only way to get new hex is staking, or is through inflation, right? The natural 3.69% inflation, which is deferred in the future, as we know, for an average of 6.5 years or something like that right now. But yeah, I got lost in the weeds. I don't remember the question.
Oh, why is it not a scam? And what are the terrible arguments against it, and why can't they be true?
Yeah, so the main in the very beginning was the Ethereum. Basically, you're selling your Ethereum for Hex in the beginning through the contract. Now that was an issue because people thought, okay, well, oh wow, I see one of the addresses for the contract being rerouting Ethereum back into the contract. Well, I looked and I saw that happen, but it was to stop arbitrage from happening through the open market. So every day the pool would basically reach parity with the market to stop arbitrage, and it would fill up like in 30 minutes, like that. It would just instantly match the market price, and sometimes it'd be 50% lower, 30% lower, maybe sometimes it'd be 10% above, 20% above, and you'd reflect that in the market. Well, if it was at that lower mark, it would just be filled up by the address, the flush address, which got all the Ethereum. And a lot of people thought that was, wrong or whatever, but hey, it was stopping arbitrage. It was going to the OA. That stuff was never sold. It's in dollar addresses. It stays there. It doesn't really move. It is what it is. A lot of it moved for the sacrifice, right? And now it just sits there. So that was a lot of
billionaire founder, no incentive to rug pull whatsoever. He's already rich.
So yeah. So
that argument doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, he got shitloads of ETH, right? So, and he made it very clear that what happens if this person got a lot of ETH and then they wrote it up 20x, and then he kind of made that really apparent that that's probably what he did. So he's fine. Why would he sell Hex? You don't need to. He has ETH. So
and you couldn't either. The liquidity, you couldn't if you wanted to. There's not enough liquidity. What is the one of the Pulse sacrifice wallets has like some insane number, like $12 billion of hex or something like that, or it's just some crazy number, and you couldn't sell that if you wanted to. There's not enough on the open market to fill it.
You
So
get,
again, another shot on that argument. Doesn't make any
yeah,
sense.
yeah, and you get what, like $8 million? That's all we have for liquidity right now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's somewhere around there for sure.
Yeah, so you nuke it to zero and you just walk away with $8 million. Wow, what a
Yeah, there goes your glory. I mean, again, Richard's in it for glory. Already rich, doesn't need your money. Doesn't make any sense. $8 million. He wipes his butt with $8 million.
So,
and the slow drip argument, has it happened? I don't think so.
Slow drip, as in?
I'm interpreting as selling a little bit at a time over time, but it hasn't happened. And why would it? And if it did happen, everyone would see it, and they'd be like, "Whoa, look what's happening!" And then the whole thing would be die again. So no, I don't see that angle either.
And a lot of the inflation that we think is going on is actually not happening. What's interesting is if you go to Hex Daily Stats and you just look at new coins being minted versus coins being staked, you actually see there are extended periods of times where we are deflating, where we're not minting new coins, where we have a negative inflation rate. It's very dynamic. And other times we have a very low inflation rate for an extended period of time. I mean, we're talking less than 1% hitting, coming off the contract and going and minting these new coins. So, since all of that inflation is deferred, we're experiencing very low to minimal inflation now. And perhaps we might continue to see that just because of the game theory with the T-shares anyways. So, the coin inflates to infinity. I mean, everything does. Things have to be built, right? You have to make new things.
It needs to grow. That's like how pretty much everything works that you need to share with more people.
Yeah. So if you have, you could argue, in a healthy economy, if you want it to grow, inflation is good. It's great because people, they'll take out loans, they'll loan it to other people, they'll spend more money, they'll create businesses and things like this. Whereas if you didn't have an economy like that, it would just naturally gravitate to a couple of people, and it would just, I don't know, at that point it would just, it'd be like the Egyptians, where they had all the gold and they had all the slaves working for them, right? We probably don't want to live in that world.
Well, people say, okay, why? Maybe the question could be asked: why isn't every coin deflationary? Why? If you try to apply that for a country, for example, you can't have a deflationary currency. Deflation, inflation, deflation, you need them to be balanced. And of course, inflation makes people want to spend money. It fuels the economy, things like that. Too, in a balanced way, not 10%, but like 2 or 3%. I think a lot of people agree that's healthy. Deflation means the money's there's going to be less of it. So how can you spend it if there's less of it? What economy are going to grow?
You would never invest in any sort of asset if your currency is deflationary, because you would just hold the currency. That's kind of bullish for crypto, because obviously your crypto would go up in price versus something that inflates, like the dollar. If you had like PulseX or something where it'd probably be bullish to hold that, just because there will be less of it going around, and it won't be inflated. And as the new users grow, naturally the price will increase because there's only so many that you can have, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that Bitcoin has a cap supply and it doesn't inflate, when in fact it inflates every 10 minutes. That's how the miners get paid, and that's going to happen through all of our lifetimes. It'll inflate for a couple hundred years past all of us dying.
Like 2140 or something like that.
Yeah, so we'll be able to see. We will never see Bitcoin go, well, maybe we will if longevity works, but as of right now, we won't see Bitcoin go to where it has its cap supply, and that is socially enforced anyways. We all know these talking points.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's code can be changed. Miners can agree that, hey, we need more inflation to sustain the network because we're gobbling up all this electricity and it's no longer profitable to mine empty blocks with no fees they're charging. We need to keep the inflation here because this is the only thing that's sustainable at the moment. And we can't have, go from however much inflation that they're being paid to nothing, right? So, that could happen.
Somebody catcalling you.
Yeah, my cat is. He's very talkative. Yeah.
In summary, like elevator pitch. Somebody comes up to you. Oh, you're in that hex stuff. It's such a scam. Blah blah blah. How do you
just walk away? It's not even worth it, man.
But they're like, I'll give you $100. $100 change my mind. $100 change. If they're like $100 change my mind. And you were like, okay, I'll take the bet. What would you say to them?
How much of a bag do you have? If you're paying me $100, I don't care. But if you're a player and you want to buy a lot of hex, sure, I'll tell you why. But if you're coming at me to just have an argument and not listen, I'm not going to tell you what hex is, right? I don't care. Right. It's going to do what it's going to do. You'll end up buying the top because you think it's a scam. That's fine. Go ahead. That's good for my bags, right? You buying now and still thinking it's a scam, right? And then you selling at a 10x, that doesn't help anybody. But let's say I did the elevator pitch, right? It's yeah. So let's say this person is a Bitcoin maximalist, right? I would tell him, okay, Hex is the same thing as Bitcoin with a proof of work change. And every time you say that, they get all triggered and stuff. They don't get it. It's literally that simple. Hex is a proof of work change. It's the same thing as Bitcoin. Instead of mining, instead of buying foreign miners, you're buying Hex. You're buying the currency to capture the inflation instead of burning electricity to run a computer that does SHA-256 mining, right? It's just that simple. And the longer you stake, the better deal you get. The inverse of a miner. So, I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it, right? That's all it is. They both inflate. They both pay people to do different things. In Hex, we pay people to stake and to hold the price up. In Bitcoin, they pay people to mine inflation and process transactions.
Yeah, but it's too centralized. We go down the list of like I think Hex.com actually has a lot of the explanations for this stuff, and of course on Telegram too. But there's
we can talk about the centralized stuff. Hey, Bitcoin mining is majority. I think 70% of the hash rate is in 5 pools. Nobody they don't talk about that stuff, but there's 5 pools. If you look up the Bitcoin hash rate, you can see there's 5 pools that control 80 to 70% of the hash rate, and somehow that's okay. So,
but it's Bitcoin, and we trust Satoshi Nakamoto, who we've never met and may not even be here anymore.
Yep. So there's always the caveat of what if Richard sells? Well, what if Satoshi sells? We can go down this list.
Richard's alive.
And we don't know if Satoshi Nakamoto is alive or dead. There's no way to confirm or deny that. Now, if Richard dies, then that's mega bullish. All them coins, they're done. They're gone. I'm sorry to say, but it's true.
I've never heard anyone actually say it, but I think we've all,
I mean,
good point. We don't want that to happen, but
no,
I don't think it would I'm not sure. Would it? There may, I would say there would be a dip, but then community overtake it, all this stuff. And we're like, well, all those coins are no longer, I don't know. Well, it's hard to say too. There's some speculation. Who was I talking to the other day? Talking to somebody, and we were talking about maybe the OA has it in a trust, and and these things are executed upon certain events. But if we all trust that Richard's going to do the right thing for holders, it wouldn't be sell it all. If something happens to me, I don't think it would be that. It would probably be like, do something good with it, which would benefit holders at least for 5 days. I would hope.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I've thought about it, and maybe it's under a legal entity or a trust or something like this. Who knows? It's acting as the Fed. It's doing its thing. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's there. The extra coins are there so that it can set the inflation rate. That was a design parameter. That's why there's a lot of supply, right? And it's holding a majority of its coins, not staked, so that the users, basically, it's like a wealth transfer. It's taking money from itself and giving it to the users. Okay, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what it's doing.
As Richard says, on your point of like, what is it doing? Questions around that. It doesn't affect you. Don't worry about it. It's he's got all this stuff figured out too. So where's the ETH? Where's blah blah blah? Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect you.